Appeals. We have agendas for tonight's meeting, which are out by the door. If anybody wants an agenda, we have 3 items on the agenda tonight. I'm going to ask everyone to silence their cell phones so they're not going off during the meeting, please. And we have minutes from the December 13th meeting, which was our last meeting. And can I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
And second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And I'm going to introduce the members of the board all the way to my right. Jeff Sauer, John Bowner, who is going to be our clerk tonight. I'm Becky Kilborn, the chair. We have Ken Jarvinen and Corrine Doherty, and the 5 of us will be voting on all of the cases tonight. We also have from the planning department, Georgia Pendergast and David Fields, who will help us out tonight. The procedure for the meeting is the clerk will read the notice of the hearing. Then we will ask the applicant to go to the microphone up here. And if you've presented any plans, the planning department will project those up on the screen. So the applicant can present their information. Please use the microphone. We are on Danvers Cable TV so that everybody can hear you. And then we will go to the board for questions of the applicant. And after we do questions from the applicant, from the board, we'll go to the audience for questions from the audience and comments from the audience, and then we'll go back to the board for deliberations. The agenda for tonight, we do have the 3 cases. We're going to do the first one, 142 Hobart first, then we'll do 121 Holton, and then 51 Needham Road. So that's the order. And anything else? After we deliberate, I'll give the applicant the options in terms of moving forward and what the vote can be. All right, we're ready.
You got it all. Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first case is docket number 21-4915, 142 Hobart Street. This is zoned residential 2. Request to extend a previously approved dimensional variance for a period no longer than 6 months. The previously issued dimensional variance lapses on March 15th, 2022. This request is made by Mark Osborne.
Mr. Osborne.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So anyways, I'm just trying to get, as I said, the packets there, you probably remember them from a year ago, probably.
Okay.
But we're just trying to get a 6 months variance because of last year of the...
Just explain a little what you were going to do, and then
We were tearing down a portion of the house and rebuilding
okay.
a house. But because of the house nonconformity, built in the 20s, it didn't meet today's standards of setbacks.
And because of COVID, you're behind on the construction.
Oh, my good God.
It's
Yeah.
very hard to get contractors.
Absolutely.
We know. So.
You know, everybody knows
Okay,
from...
so you'd like a 6-month extension?
Yeah, if you can, I mean, that, you know, I think
Absolutely.
I'll have it, the buildings permits before then, but as you know, the way things are going,
Okay, all right. Anything else?
that's it.
All right, do we need to
I have no
pull the
questions.
board questions?
I just have one, Madam Chair. So you have a hired contractor currently?
We have the demolition guy, and I have a framing crew, and now it's just a matter of scheduling.
And so you have permits on that?
No, I can't get a permit until I get a demo permit, and I gotta have everything shut off before I can get a demo permit.
Okay. So who's responsible for that, the contractor or
You know
yourself?
what I mean? I'm journaling it.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay. Ken?
The plan hasn't changed, right? Same
No,
plan?
absolutely nothing's changed,
Okay.
just time.
All set.
Maureen?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
And I don't have any questions either. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Okay, back to the board.
I will approve this extension.
Okay,
I too will vote in favor.
and, go ahead.
I'll vote for this, too.
Yes.
I will vote for this.
And I'll vote for this. Have a motion, please.
Madam, I request an extension, move to extend the dimensional variance for 142 Hobart Street, issued on March 26th, 2021, docket 21-4915, for a period of no longer than 6 months to expire on September 26th, 2022.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, good luck.
Good luck.
Will I have to file that with the deeds or anything again?
We'll be in
Ask
touch.
them.
You'll be in touch?
I'll be in touch with you, yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was easy.
Moving on.
Moving along. Madam Chair, our next case is docket number 22-4963, 121 Holton Street, zoned residential 2. Request for a finding in accordance with section 3.17 of the Danvers Zoning Bylaw to allow the demolition of an existing non-conforming shed and the construction of a new 10-by-16 shed. This request is made by Peter Swift.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So, yeah, I'm currently want to take down
Just identify yourself.
I'm Peter Swift at
Okay.
121 Holden
All
Street.
right, great.
So I currently have a 10 by 10 that's there,
Yes?
and I want to replace it with a 10 by 16. It's going to be the same setback. It's not going back any further. I'm just going to go 6 feet more forward. And according to the shed people, they need at least 30 inches from the back of my shed to the fence, minimum. And I think the building permit wants 5 feet with the new laws, and I just can't do 5 feet.
Okay. I just had a quick question. You said that the existing is 10 by 10,
Yes.
and the new one is 10 by 16?
Yeah, so I'm going 6 feet more forward.
But it shows the width of this as being bigger than 10 by 10 on your plan? Do you see how it sticks out in front? Like it's 10, the old one's 10 and the new one's 12, maybe?
That could have been the guy who did the land save area. Maybe he did something wrong, but no, it's gonna be 10. It's definitely gonna be 10 feet wide. It's only gonna be 6 feet. I don't know where you got that dimension from.
Well, this is where we have to go back, right?
I have the brochure from the shed that I'm buying. If that helps.
Okay, so I guess you need to go up there. So the existing shed is there, and that's 10 by 10.
Correct.
And so the new one will be,
Be the same from here to here. It's gonna go 6 feet more this way. I have a gate going into my neighbor's yard. It's gonna stop before I
Okay.
see it.
okay. All right. Anything else you want to say before we ask questions?
Nope.
Okay, Corinne?
I guess my question is actually to David. I believe the no-build zone prevents us from issuing a building permit. So, in this situation, shouldn't it go to the Conservation Commission first?
The applicant will have to go to the Conservation Commission. He doesn't necessarily need to go first. You can issue your permit if you'd like, but I think I'd mentioned Ms. Kilbourne sent out an email questioning that as well. We also staff Conservation Commission, so they are aware of the situation.
Okay. I'm also looking, and I drove by your property, because the no-build zone is there and it creates issues, is there any way that you could move that shed over so that you're not in the no-build zone?
I got irrigation that's going through here. And it would look really silly if I brought that shed almost.
No. I'm not saying move it forward, I'm saying move it over. So you see where the no-build zone line is? If you move it,
This is the no-build zone right now? Okay.
no, it goes along the side of your property.
on the left.
See where it says, no disturb, and then there's no build, and that line goes all the way up? if you moved the shed over to the right, I want to say like 3 feet,
Oh, going more towards this way.
yeah, then you wouldn't be in the no-build zone at all.
Yeah, I think I could do that, as long as it's, I think I still have room, because there is a gate that goes into
Can you
my
bring the
backyard.
microphone with you? Thank you.
So there is a gate, and I assume that might be it right there. So I probably still have room to do that.
I think you would eliminate a lot of problems if you just shifted it over 3 feet, and then you wouldn't be in the no-build zone.
Yeah, I'll have to, yeah, all right, I should have enough room for that.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Ken?
So the shed manufacturer said you have to be, they want you to be 30 inches away?
Minimum.
Minimum.
He just needs room to work.
Okay,
So it's currently a lot closer than that. It's only about a foot away from the fence right now. The current shed that's there now.
yeah,
is
so
only a
you'll be
foot.
coming,
I'll be
coming
coming
out.
out a little bit more.
okay.
He said 30 inches is enough for him to work in the back. So,
Okay, cool. I have no other questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Swift,
Yes.
why wouldn't we move this to agree with our bylaw, which is 5 feet off the property line?
being 5 feet more this way, it's just, I just did my whole yard. I mean, I spent over 20 grand doing this entire yard over. And to bring that shed out more towards my pavers, or the driveway, I should say, the corner of the driveway, it's just gonna look silly. It's gonna look ridiculous. I was gonna plan, I mean, I can move it forward, no problem, but come out 5 feet into the yard, in the middle, almost the middle of my yard there, it would just, it wouldn't look good at all.
Well, it's worse than that, because
Wait,
more than-
wait,
Hold up,
wait,
Jeff.
wait.
Hold up, Jeff. All right, so how long have you owned the property?
4 years, January 19th.
'Cause I believe, and I'll go to the planning department, so no permit was pulled on this original shed? Is that
That's correct.
my understanding?
Yeah, nothing for the ZBA filing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, we have the bylaw for a reason, right? And it's supposed to be 5 feet off the property line. And this current shed is not. I'll stick to my questions, I guess. So this is the largest shed, 10 by 16. And there's a possibility, as Corrine noted, to move it as facing the property to the right to bring it out of the no-build zone. Did I hear that
Correct.
correctly?
Yep.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Could you just, wait, David, can I ask you a question? What is the size of the shed that's allowed to only be 5 feet off? And what is the size of the shed that would need setback requirements?
So it's 10 by 8 or 10, or less than 10 feet in height. So,
So if this is 10 by 16, it needs to meet setback requirements, which is 15 feet. Okay,
15 or 5?
15
if it's bigger than 120 square
Oh,
feet.
right.
for
okay.
rear setback.
Gotcha.
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
No questions? Okay. So are you aware that you're supposed to be 15 feet off of the,
Off the brook?
no, the rear lot line for that size shed?
Yes, and I meet that. The way it sets right now, the shed that's there meets more than 15. It's like, it's gonna be.
No, rear setback.
From the
rear.
back fence line, you're supposed to be 15 feet. Your old shed is small.
Yeah,
Well, the old shed should have made it too, right? It's not, it's bigger than 8 by 10?
it
have been
depends on if it really is 10 by 10 or if it's 8 by 10. It's hard to tell, like you pointed out from the drawing.
Okay.
It could be 8 by 10.
Okay, so the old shed, let's say, really only needed to be 5 feet from the lot line. But by increasing the size of the shed, you need to be 15 feet from that rear lot line.
that, 5 feet wouldn't work, 15 feet definitely wouldn't work. That's gonna be all the way on the center of my property.
Because it becomes a bigger structure, so you have to meet a regular size building setback from the rear lot line. So, it's just really close. Plus, I had asked the question about whether or not you need to go to the Conservation Commission? Did you know that you needed to go to the?
Oh, yeah, I've been in contact with her
Oh, okay, okay.
from the beginning of this whole process.
Oh, okay, all right.
When I was doing my yard over, I was in contact with her, and then we started talking about the shed during that time.
Okay. So the existing shed was never permitted, okay?
wouldn't know
Which,
that.
it was there when you bought the house, right? Yes.
And I think it was there when they bought the house. They were there.
Yeah, I looked at the assessor's records. It showed it as of being constructed there in 1990, so I don't know.
Yeah, they were there for about 12 years.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't have any other questions other than to try to explain to you what we're looking for. So I'm going to, do you have anything else you want to present to us? Or I'm going to go to the audience for comment, and then I'm going to come back to the board for deliberation. But,
Yeah, I said everything I needed to say. I mean, I can't come 15 feet. I mean, I can come, like I said, 30 inches off the fence, 3 feet at the most, and then I can go forward to the right to get off the no-build zone.
okay, have you talked to your neighbors in the back there?
Yeah. Yeah, her house sets up here.
Right, and yeah, we've all pretty much been by there. We usually go out and look at every property before
Oh,
we come.
she's fine with everything, and my neighbors to the right,
Okay,
the Coles, they're fine.
okay.
Neighbors to the left are good, too.
Yes.
Yeah, they're really good.
Oh, yeah, the graveyard, yeah. Yeah, they do a lot of sleeping, so.
They don't make much noise.
All right, I'm going to go to the audience for questions and comments. Thank you.
Want me to stay, or-
Anybody? Mr. Duggan? If you would let him.
Want to yield the mic, please?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matthew Duggan, Selectman. Can you clarify the agenda? It says for this item, it's asking for a finding, which would mean that you're allowing the current footprint to exist. It sounds like you're actually looking for the applicant needs a variance for the setback. Is that accurate?
Well, this is a non-conforming.
Pre-existing.
Use, pre-existing non-conforming use, and so it's a finding of the pre-existing. And
Well,
it's a little awkward because it was never permitted.
yeah,
but
so
it's
it's
been
an
there over
illegality today.
10 years.
So to have a finding for an illegality is just, fruit from a poisoned tree, so to speak.
I understand.
We know that setbacks, those were, these property setbacks that are determined by the voters of Danvers through their duly elected representatives at town meeting. And so oftentimes, this board,
Wow.
Lightning. No, it sounds like that went out.
I think it blew up. Yeah, wait. Oh, a microphone battery? Oh. All right, hold on a minute.
We all witnessed, don't worry about it. You got it.
We're patient. Little technical issue.
This is when we're supposed to cut the commercial.
We get that sign that says waiting or something.
Looks like that one's gone.
Does that work, that microphone, that extra one? Yeah. Doesn't work. We have an extra mic up here. 2 of them, actually.
Try it again.
No. It used to be much worse in here. This is all the new technology, so.
We need that Jeopardy music.
Do, 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 do.
Microphone just blew up.
That's fine. All right, we'll take a break for 5 minutes. You want to just put us on?
That's actually.
Thank you. Did it work? So
Yeah.
we have the little
Yeah,
microphone.
he's saying that it's working.
It sounds like it.
Okay. All right,
Go
so we're
ahead.
back in business here. So, I just want to go back to the finding again. So the finding would be like a variance in the sense that this would be allowed forever in terms of this location? A shed could be located here forever? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, it seems a little bit too close. I think it's a little bit too big, and I think this really needs to be kind of revisited by the applicant and maybe come back at a future date. I think it seems to be, there may be another alternative for the site, for where it's located. That's
Okay.
just my thought.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Mr. Bradstreet.
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Conversation, or part of what was said was CBA, Conservation Commission. Is there a set order so that one doesn't say yes and then the other one is held to saying yes where they would normally have said no?
If we give our approval, and they decide that it can't be built there, then there's no approval. Our approval is contingent on their approval.
Okay, but there's no set order who an applicant sees first?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, that's disappointing.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments from our help over there, our staff?
No, I heard 2 conditions if you decide to go forward, but that's about it.
Say that again?
I just had 2 conditions noted if you decide to go forward, but that's it.
Okay. All right. So I'll go back to Corinne.
I will vote for this if you move it out of the no-build zone, so move it to the right. And if you have it at least 2 feet off the back. You're saying now, make it 2.5, at least half the distance that we require for, I guess, the smaller shed. But I definitely want it out of the build zone, the no-build zone. Thank you.
Yes, that would be the 30 inches, right, 2.5. So, yeah, if you did that, I agree with Corinne. If you move, just like she said, if you move it to the right out of the no-build zone and bring it out, because where it's located, it's not going to be hindering, the neighbor's house is not close to that and stuff. So I think that is a consideration of where it's located.
We're doing deliberations, so you can't talk anymore. Thank you. Go ahead. You finished?
Yeah, I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I will not vote for it in its current form. I think we're 0 for 2 here. It doesn't meet setback, and it's oversized. This board's been known to go half of a setback with an oversized, so I would agree to 7.5 feet if the applicant wants to stay at a 10 by 16 shed. If he wants to do a shed that's considered our approved size, which I think is 10 by 12, I would allow him to keep the same setback, I guess, but in its current form, I would not vote for this.
Okay. And Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will not vote for the application as presented.
I think we need to fix the plot plan to show what's actually there.
Right.
And, the applicant needs to be aware that if it's 120 square feet, it can be close to the line, but once you go above that 120 square feet to a 10 by 16, it becomes an auxiliary structure and you need to be 15 feet off the line. This board is here
All
to
right.
make exceptions, but we usually only go about 7.5 feet. So I won't vote for this as presented. I would vote for it if it was 120 square feet and 2 feet off the line, or if it was 10 by 16 and farther off, 7.5.
7.5. Okay. And I also think it's very tight to the lot line. I really like to see the sheds 5 feet off, and it seems like there's a big yard there to work with. So if you could step back up to the microphone. You're probably not going to have the votes to do it just like that. You don't have the votes to do it just like that. What people are saying is if you leave it at 10 by 12, if you have a 10 by 12 shed and can move it 2.5 feet off the lot line and move it over out of the no-build zone, then they would approve it. But if you want the 10 by 16 shed, then they want you to meet at least half of the setback. The setback's 15 feet, so they want you to be 7.5 feet off the back lot line. So you can think about it. You can continue the case to our next meeting if you want, and kind of think about what would be the best for you. You don't have to decide on the spot standing there tonight. If you move it out of I don't think anybody's going to approve it in the no-build zone. So we really will need a new plan, or can you just mark up that plan, or?
It could be amended. If the applicant wants to continue, it could be 2 weeks, or if they need more time, it could be the whole month. So it's up to the applicant.
Okay. Typically, we need a real plan for the file for the town that shows exactly what's there and what's being built. I'm still confused by what was drawn there. And who did this, LeBlanc?
Yeah.
He's awesome. He doesn't make mistakes, so I'm confused why that is like that. So would you like, our next meeting is
The 14th.
the March 14th, in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Do you want to continue to March 14th, so you can talk to them
Yep.
and,
Yeah, I'll
and then
continue
come
that to March
back? You
14th.
want to, that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And you have an idea where we're at.
Okay,
Okay?
great.
All right, can I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we continue this case to March 14th.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay, all set.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, our final case of the evening is docket number 22-4962, 51 Needham Road. This is zoned Commercial 3. Request for a variance, use variance from Table 1 of the Danvers Zoning Bylaw to allow motor vehicle sales outdoors in the C3 zoning district where it is otherwise prohibited. This request is being made by David Rosenberg.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, David Rosenberg. With me tonight is the applicant, David Rosenberg. Also with me tonight is Peter Ogren, the project engineer, and Harry Samelchek, the project designer. And we are requesting a use variance relative to the property at 51 Needham Road, which is located in the C3 zoning district, in order to allow motor vehicle sales outdoors, as it is stated under the Table 1 of the zoning bylaw, to permit an automotive dealership on a portion of this property with outdoor
You
sale.
have to stand back from that a little, or push it forward.
Which do you want? How about that?
Yeah.
That better?
Yeah.
Okay. To allow an automobile dealership with outdoor sales and inventory storage on a portion of the property located at 51 Needham Road. I will note, automotive vehicle sales in the C3 zoning district that is entirely indoors is a permitted use. What we are requesting is approval to allow the component that has outdoor inventory storage and sales and display, which is typical of an automotive dealership. That portion requires the variance. So this property, you are familiar with this property at 51 Needham Road, also known as Hutchinson Drive. This is a 24.5-acre parcel. It has many different types of uses. We have general retail use in the form of the retail club, BJ's. We have we have medical offices. We have a boat brokerage, which has outdoor storage and display of its inventory on this site and was the recipient of a variance from this board for that use a number of years ago. And we have the former movie theater, Hollywood Hits. Hollywood Hits was constructed in about 1973. It terminated its operation and has been vacant for about 6 years. And the owner of this property has been very diligent in his efforts in trying to get a new tenant for this section of the site, which is about 4.5 acres, and has been unable to do that. And that's because of the irregular shape of this parcel. It's, as I said, 24.5 acres. It's very irregularly shaped. And the difficult component of this is, while you can see this section of the site from 128, you can't see the access to this property, this section of the property, from any public way that's providing access. So that makes it very difficult to attract a commercial 3 type of use, general retail type of use, for example, or other types of uses that require good visibility from the public way, because you're attracting drive-by type of uses or impulse type of uses. So those types of uses, this site and this location on the site, which is in the northwesterly quadrant of a 24.5-acre site, is really has become demonstrably so, having been vacant for 6.5 years, difficult to occupy for commercial 3 zoning purposes. The existing portion of this site has a movie theater on it. Again, it's about 25,000 square feet or so, and it is almost entirely paved. It has been a parking lot since 1973. The proposal that the applicant has is to redevelop this section of the site for an automobile dealership. Again, the indoor automobile dealership is permitted by right. But as is customary and typical and most often seen with an automotive dealership, you have outdoor storage of inventory, you have display of inventory, and that by the very nature of the product and the size of the product is needed. And so the outdoor component of the motor vehicle sales is the request that we have that requires the variance. And that's what we're here tonight. Automobile sales and the automobile sales business has changed, as this board has heard in other applications that you've had before you in the last 5 or so years. The automobile business and sales business has changed dramatically. It used to be that families would go on a Saturday afternoon and walk around the dealerships and look at cars, and it became kind of an activity that folks would go to a dealership a number of times before purchasing a vehicle. With multiple trips, it was often drive-by and kind of impulsive. You see the little sports car out there, you drive by. That's all over now. The sales and purchasing of automobiles is done primarily online, with folks looking at inventory that's available online, deciding what vehicle they want, often communicating with the dealership online. So what used to be 4 or 5 trips to the dealership now may be accomplished in 1, maybe 2 trips to the dealership to purchase your vehicle. So this has changed the needs of the automobile dealership. Having that visibility right on the traveled way is not as important anymore. So they've become from a drive-by type of impulse sort of business, it's become more of a destination business. And this location fits for a destination type of use, because as you're proceeding along Endicott Street, you can't see this. You can't see the entrance to this. And while you can see it from 128, you can't figure out from 128 how to get here. So that makes the change in the automobile business and industry and how vehicles are bought and sold, and the change in that market really makes this now an appropriate and viable location for this business. What we're proposing to do is remove the existing 1973 movie theater and construct a new dealership building closer to Route 128 than the existing building, and Peter Ogren and Harry Samelchuk will go over the plans with you. The proposed dealership building itself is fully conforming with all of the dimensional and density setback requirements in the C3 zoning district. The area is paved, as I mentioned, and we will have a slight reduction, as you saw in your zoning chart, in the overall impervious surface that we have on the property. Georgia, I did have a couple of photographs, or one photograph that I sent you of the existing site, which we'll put up just to remind you, although I know you're all intimately familiar with this with the site. And that's the existing movie theater. And from that movie theater building all the way to Route 128 is a paved parking area with circa 1973, with very little stormwater management improvements, which will become part of this overall development. And then, as you can see on the plans that were submitted to you, the new building will be brought forward. So I point that out only to demonstrate that as you're traveling along Route 128, right now you see a parking lot and then the building off in the distance. We're moving the building closer to 128, which will actually be a better appearance as you're traveling along 128, rather than just the expanse of a parking lot that has been there, obviously serving the movie theater. So at this point, I think it probably makes sense to turn this over to Peter Ogren, and he can go over the site plan for you, and then Harry can discuss with you the building. But again, the building itself is permitted. Indoor sales of vehicles is permitted. And what we're requesting is the variance that will allow, as a component of that indoor motor vehicle sales, to allow the exterior storage of vehicles and inventory.
Thank you, Nancy. As Nancy said, my name is Peter Ogren. I'm with Hayes Engineering, and I've worked on a number of dealerships with both David Rosenberg and also his father and Conley Brothers. We were asked to take a look at this site to see how a dealership might lay out here, and as Nancy pointed out, it looked to us like we would want to move the proposed building further towards 128 than the existing Holiday Hits.
You have to
Hollywood-
move back a little from the microphone.
Hollywood Hits.
That's what that banging is.
I thought that was my head banging against the wall. The Hollywood Hits building. Do you have the other site plan that I submitted? I submitted one that showed an existing conditions plan. This plan shows you how far back the Hollywood Hits building is to the site. The site's actually a leased parcel, as Nancy indicated, approximately 4 acres. And the dotted lines that you see on the northeast or the right-hand, southeast, excuse me, the right-hand side of the screen or the bottom of the screen is the leased area. The Hollywood Hits building is back within about 30 feet, I think, of that rear property line. We're proposing to move it forward. Also shown on this plan is the limit of paving, and it's paved actually all the way to 128, in some cases maybe a little bit over the 128 line, and the entire area to the lot line on the northerly side, northeasterly side of the site. Do you have the photograph that showed the access? Was that successful?
This one, Nancy?
I know you're all familiar with the site, but I thought it was worthwhile. As Nancy pointed out, this is an irregularly shaped parcel with lots of uses on it. This kind of demonstrates that. The frontage is actually on Needham Road on the right-hand side of your screen, and Hutchinson's Drive comes off of Endicott through to Needham Road and then on into the site. Access to the site, as we see it, would be directly down Hutchinson's Drive and into it. The site itself has been designed so that we have ample area to turn car carriers around and obviously to unload cars on the site itself. We could go back to the site plan now. We took a look at your zoning and to see how the site would lay out, and I think the biggest issue is what is the required parking. We put a zoning table in the corner of it, and as Nancy said, the setbacks do conform to the required zoning. There are 121 spaces required for the employees and the patrons, and that's based on the number of actual lifts that they have in the service area and so forth. It seems like a lot to me, but that's what's required by the zoning. So we have those 121 spaces, and then in addition we have 247 spaces for display and inventory. The only spaces that are tandem are the spaces that we show on that northeasterly lot line, and those are only 2 deep. That's fairly common in the car industry. As Nancy pointed out, other than that, it'll be fully conformant with the zoning, and we are subject to site plan review with the planning board. We would expect that would be our next stop. The last point is Nancy mentioned that there'd be improvements as far as drainage is concerned. The site currently drains in 2 watersheds, one to the sort of southeast and one to the northwest. What we would expect to do is have some infiltration on the site and also water quality improvements, which are sort of required now under the MS4 permits that the cities and towns are all subject to. I think that describes it. Now I'd like Harry Samlichek to go over the architecture of the building. Unless you have any
Thank you.
questions for me first, or?
No, we'll let everybody present, and then we'll go back to questions. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Peter. My name is Harry Samlichuk. I'm project designer with Connolly Construction. And actually, if we could go back to Peter's site plan first, please. So the proposed building is approximately 20,000 square feet, as you can see. And it's parsed up into 4 sections. The largest section, which is approximately 11,000 square feet, that's the showroom. And that's what would be facing 128 or westerly. The next largest section behind that would be the service department. It'd be an overhead door, just one overhead door on either side, so it's not a series of overhead doors. Beyond that is facing the existing Hollywood Hits building will be a car wash, a tunnel wash, and that's about another 1,000 square feet. Then the section that's facing the marina folks, which would be the southerly face, that's a service drive, which I'm sure you're all probably familiar with. When you bring your car to a dealership, you usually drive into the service drive. And that's how the building is all parsed up into those 4 sections. And again, as Nancy pointed out, but I think it's worth noting, this building is actually smaller than the Hollywood Hits. Hollywood Hits is somewhere between 25 and 27,000 square feet. So this is actually a smaller footprint. If we could move to those elevations, please. So this is the proposed building. You can see the westerly elevation. That's the showroom, and that's the where all the glass. So that would be mostly curtain wall glass, insulated aluminum metal panel. You can see sort of towards me the glass overhead doors, which would be the service drive. And then as you kind of march your way around the building, the rest of the building is primarily insulated metal panel. There's not a whole lot of glass as you kind of walk around the circumference of the building. The height of the building, at its highest, you can see it's a flat roof building. The higher part, which is actually the showroom, is about 24 feet, which again is a little bit lower than the Hollywood Hits building. As you know, the Hollywood Hits building, the grade drops off quite a bit in the back. So the grade around this building is going to essentially be pretty flat. And then the lower part of the building, which is the service part, the service drive, the car wash, is approximately 20 feet high. As you could see from Peter's zoning chart, it's well within the limits of what zoning requires. I think it's 45 feet, the height that's allowed, and this is only 24 feet high. So as I said, that pretty much takes us through the building. If you have any questions, building-related questions, I'd be happy to answer those. And at that, I think I'd turn it back to me. 45 feet.
So, in summary, if we can go back to the requested relief is a variance related to the outdoor storage of inventory, sales, and display, which puts us under the motor vehicle outdoor category under the table of uses that are permitted in the C3 zoning district. This is, again, the same type of zoning relief that this board granted, recognizing the hardship related to the shape of this lot back a few years ago when the boat dealership was permitted on the same site and directly to the bottom of this plan is the boat dealership. Same type of variance relief granted there, only in that case, actually, boat sales at all were not permitted in the C3 zoning district. In this case, automobile sales are permitted. It's the outdoor component that requires the variance. We did meet with planning staff back in December. We met with Aaron Henry and Josh Morris, and during that discussion, it was acknowledged that this is a use that will continue a commercial use in this zoning district. It is a retail use, and it does continue that type of commercial use. I know that there was an application before you with regard to this site that eliminated the commercial use on this site. We are not proposing that. We are proposing here very much keeping the commercial use on this site. This project does require, as Peter mentioned, site plan approval from the planning board, and that process will involve upgrades to stormwater management. It will involve, as you know, all of the components that the planning board will require us to look at, including landscaping and lighting and all of those various components, all of which will result in this aesthetic view of the property being a significant improvement over the dilapidated building that we have now, the broken down pavement, and really an eyesore that can be seen from Route 128. The application goes into detail with regard to the hardship and requirements for a use variance under the zoning bylaw as well as MGL Chapter 40A, Section 10. And this site, as the board has recognized at least 6 times in the past, This site does have a hardship related to the irregular shape of the lot and the access associated with this parcel, and the fact that, as with the boat dealership right on the same lot next door, visibility to the access and visibility to Endicott Street is not there because of the shape of the lot. So we have to have a use here that is a destination use, and automobile sales has become a destination type of use. Making a reasonable, viable use of this property is obviously in keeping with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. This is a reasonable use. It's going to result in an environmental improvement here with the stormwater management improvements that will be required, and certainly an improvement in the appearance, all which would be in keeping with the intent and purpose of the bylaw. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna, so we've struggled with this site and another site very near here with residential use in a commercial zoning district. And I reached out to the planning department, asking them to give us their feeling for what should be done in this area, because, we are a volunteer board and we're looking for the town's direction in terms of planning. And obviously we're making our own decisions, but we wanted to know what their thoughts were. So we did get a memo, and I appreciate that they took the time to give us this information. I'm going to summarize what they said. The planning and economic development staff, should the board agree, are in favor of the proposed use at this location and are adequately requited. Having this property remain in commercial use is a reasonable outcome, and we expect the proposed use to be successful over the current and next business cycle. The proposed use is benign for the location, specifically on this site, and it's certainly more appropriate than a residential use or other commercial uses mentioned previously, such as a contractor's yard. I'm not reading every sentence, I'm summarizing. While the mix of uses on this particular site are currently less than ideal, meaning they are not particularly complementary, staff does not have concerns with adding the use before you to this mix. And in summary, the planning staff recommends favorably on the proposed project. So I think it's important for the board to hear that, and that they looked at it, and that's what their recommendation is. So I'm going to go to the board for questions, and we're going to start with Jeff.
I have none. None,
Okay.
Chairman. Thank you.
Attorney McCann, as you mentioned, we've had this site before us with the residential request, and as part of that came the hazardous waste that exists on this site, and I noticed there was no mention of that, so I think I understand, without going into deep detail, that if I understand it correctly, if that waste is not disturbed, then the remediation or...
Let her answer.
What's that?
Just let her answer.
Yeah, well, yeah, so can you just tell me about the hazardous waste and what's the plan?
Sure. The hazardous waste hasn't moved from when you last heard this, an application for this site. There, it's going to be hard because I don't think I can take this with me.
Do you have a pointer for her?
Oh, Lord, you want me to
We
use a
had one.
pointer?
No?
It should be in front of you, Nancy, if it's not in there.
It's just on a cord. You can probably pick up the whole microphone.
There you go.
Didn't want to disturb things.
You look like one of those people on the game show. That's the kind of microphone.
I missed my calling. I really did. So, there is some contamination, very, very small amount, in this upper corner right here, which
Okay.
would not be disturbed by this construction. We're not proposing any buildings in that area. It's a parking lot now. It will be a parking area later, as shown here, for vehicles. So this, to pick up on a word that the planning department used, benign is a pretty good word to use for this, because that really is going to be, I'll use the term, dead storage area. And there's no construction, there's no foundation, there's no disturbance being proposed in that very, very isolated small section.
So when this new parking lot is put down, do we go over the old parking lot? Is the old parking lot scraped out? I mean, what's that process?
I don't think we've made a decision exactly as to how to handle the paving, but in that area particularly, we don't have to disturb the pavement. We can use fabric underneath the final coat so that we stabilize the existing by putting fabric on it and then put a top coat over it.
Okay, so that will not be disturbed.
We don't have to disturb it. I've read the 21E and we don't have to disturb that area.
Thank you. Attorney McCann, so if I read this correctly, does this mean there'll be 247 vehicles stored outside if the inventory exists, or do I not have that right?
That's what we're showing on the plan for an inventory storage area, based on what this plan shows, and that would be correct. And I'm hesitating only a little bit because of what Peter said. The required parking is 121 parking spaces under the zoning bylaw. I would anticipate, as we have done with other automobile dealerships, that we will have a discussion with the planning board, that amount of required parking spaces for an auto dealership with 25 employees is too much.
But so
So there may be more inventory storage than 247.
Okay, but so this current plan, though, it's 121 parking spots plus the 247?
Yes.
I see, okay. And what would the hours of operation be?
The hours of operation are 7:30 to 9 on weekdays, 7:30 to 6 on Saturday, 12 to 5 on Sunday, and that 7:30 is when service opens, 7:30 in the morning.
Okay, and I just have one last one. I know it's detailed on the drawing, but if you could just help me. What is the current setback for Hollywood Hits? And I believe I'm reading this correctly, that at the display plaza out to the left-hand side of this drawing, that's the 128 side
Over here,
on the left.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's 128. What is the question?
And what is the current setback to Hollywood Hits?
From Route 128?
Yes, approximately.
I can't read that. That's blurry.
I can't see it either.
About
Hey,
300.
3 something?
It's 316.
And the new one's gonna be 100 something?
The proposed is going to be
101, is that what I see?
101.
Okay.
101.
I have no further questions, thank you.
I do want to raise one item that I didn't mention, and that is it is possible as part of the site plan approval that we would be phasing this. So I just want to make that clear, that it may be possible that while we're doing the construction, we might utilize a portion of the existing Hollywood Hits building for indoor sales, which is permitted, as part of the phasing, and that would be a phasing plan before the planning board. But I just wanted to mention that ultimately the build-out would be as you see here, but possibly for a very limited time during construction, indoor sales may take place within a portion of the Hollywood Hits building. But again, indoor sales is permitted.
All set? Thank you.
Thank you. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is there going to be any signage?
Yes, there's an existing sign on the site down in the lower left corner that would continue to be used. And I anticipate there will probably be a conforming signage on the building. the exact graphics and size of that hasn't been determined.
Okay, but it will be within the confines of the bylaws.
Either that or we will be back to see you.
Okay, so you're gonna use the old existing sign, and it's gonna be the same
Yes.
size?
Refaced. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, the trucks coming down, they're gonna be huge. I mean, so is there gonna, did you measure the width of the street and everything? Is that usual to accommodate such a big? Oh, yeah. That's right. But the
Sure.
trucks get bigger and bigger these days, so I was just wondering if you...
Yeah, we've actually run the design vehicle through the site, down Hutchinson Drive and through the site. There's a program called Auto Turn, which we determine how it can be done, and I guess I can become a game show
Good
host. I
job.
did not miss my calling. If you do that, you come down Hutchinson's Drive and drive onto the site. It's then designed that the car carriers will come around, and you can see that these curves have all been eased so that they can come around out where the pavement is widened by this garage door. They drop the vehicles off. That along that northeasterly lot line is all storage. The vehicle then continues around back and down Hutchinson Drive. It's probably got one of the better circulations of the car dealerships that I've worked on.
And that will be happening during regular business hours, or?
Hi, I'm Dave Rosenberg. Yeah, that'll happen during normal business hours.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Anything else?
No other questions.
Great.
I just have a couple quick questions. So when you're talking about parking, if the planning board decides that you don't need as many parking spaces for employees and customers, does that mean you're eliminating spaces, or will those spaces be converted to storage spaces?
They would probably be converted to storage spaces, I would
Okay.
anticipate. That would be part of a discussion with the planning board.
Okay. And then what will you do as far as storage if you're in the process of constructing, but still using the old Hollywood hits? Obviously, you won't have as many parking spaces, so you won't be able to store as many cars on that space.
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What about landscaping? I know that that's not necessarily, that'll go in front of planning board, but what have you proposed for landscaping there?
We haven't proposed a landscaping plan yet.
Okay.
A full landscaping sheet with species and sizes at planting and number of plants is required as part of the site plan package that the planning board will look at, and they always look at landscaping very carefully. I would anticipate there's going to be foundation plantings around portions of the buildings. There's certainly going to be plantings along the islands. There might be landscaping along the perimeter. I can say with some certainty that it will be a vast improvement over the landscaping that's there now.
Okay.
We are decreasing the amount of impervious that's on the site now, as you can see in the chart, by a pretty significant amount, actually. So that means we're getting rid of some pavement, and we'll be adding green space. But that will be a detailed landscaping sheet that goes along with the detailed engineering sheets and things like that that are part of the site plan.
And do we know what kind of cars are going to be sold here?
We do not yet.
Can't be disclosed, all right.
We do not know yet.
Okay. The sign. Have you considered reducing the size of the sign? It's just huge.
And very valuable.
I know that.
We are proposing to reface that sign and leave it in its existing location and existing configuration.
And the size of the sign is
Ginormous.
gigantic.
It's roughly 800 square feet.
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Would you take a condition to reduce it?
I'm sure it's been discussed.
I mean, it's just,
Nope.
it's not in line with what's around town, obviously.
Hi, Dave Rosenberg again. I know signage is an issue in Danvers, and the size of signs. Unfortunately, for the reason that this site has hardship, it also makes it difficult to do business as a car dealership. And because the access is so difficult, I need as much visibility as possible on 128 so people know that there's a dealership there. And that's one of the reasons that I was attracted to the site, is because of the size of the sign. And it's like, I'll be honest with you, it's like having a mini billboard out there. And because I'm going to have to give specific directions in all the advertising on my website and everything else, get off at exit 41, take a left, go down, take a left on Endicott Street. I really need the size of that sign.
Have to ask.
And
Anything
the sign
else?
is a pre-existing, non-conforming, legally grandfathered
We know
sign.
that. You're asking something from us, we might have to ask
Point
for something from you.
counterpoint.
Anything else before we go to the audience?
I don't think so.
Okay. Comments from the audience? Mr. Duggan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matthew Duggan. Just wanted to echo the thoughts of the planning staff that this is, I think, an appropriate use. Even though it's not granted by right, it's still an appropriate use, I think, for this site. It's certainly a much better project than what was proposed previously to have residential there. That a residential development would have had a big impact on the residents that live down closer to Endicott Street. So I think it sounds like this operation will be mostly during normal business hours, and so probably less of an impact. There's already a significant amount of traffic going through that intersection and onto the site with both deliveries and with the gas station and the wholesale club. Also, it's my belief that this type of use is not granted, and there's a number of other car dealerships in Danvers that also have these use variances. For example, the ones along 114, I don't believe that they were allowed by right to sell vehicles or store vehicles outside like that. So I think it's not a stretch to allow this applicant to have that same opportunity. So that's all I have. Thank you.
So you're in favor of this?
I am in favor, yes.
Okay,
It's
thank
better to do something with this, and I think this is appropriate, rather than just leave it fallow the way it is today. It's basically an eyesore, and I think by this improvement, it will generate jobs and also probably additional tax revenue for the town as well.
Thank you.
Becky, there's someone online as well.
I'm sorry?
There's someone online as well that had their hand raised.
Okay, all right. Mr. Bradstreet first?
I can wait.
You can wait? Okay, well, go ahead.
Marie, you can go ahead if you can hear us.
Hi, my name's Marie Planky. I live at 59 Endicott Street. I have concerns about traffic. Endicott Street has a lot of traffic, as I'm sure everyone is aware. And it's getting worse all the time. I know that when the boat marina or whatever it is down there went in, then there was a question during the planning board meeting about how the boats were going to get down there, because we have a huge problem here on Endicott and Needham Road with the speed bumps that are on Hutchinson Drive, currently with just the trucks that go over it. especially when they come back from BJ's and have hand carts in them. So I know that they had asked how the boats were going to be brought in, and they are only supposed to be brought in on the back of like a pickup truck. Car carriers going down there is going to be, I don't know, it's going to be unbearable. So I'd just like to see something done with that whole entrance. I've seen actually trucks that have had to back up and they can't make the turn. So I question whether that's going to be able to happen. And just the whole issue with traffic on Endicott Street has to be dealt with. I know I talked to the planning board. When the medical center went in there, they were supposed to do synchronization of the lights, and it's never been done. So I would just like to see some of that addressed. I don't know if a traffic study needs to be done or something to help with the traffic.
So I'll just say that this isn't allowed use, so they would be able to build this anyway. And I think some of your comments and maybe questions are really not for this board. And we'll let the planning board kind of take that under advisement. And we really can't deal with traffic on Endicott Street so much because this applicant is allowed to build that business. Something's going to go in there. And the question is, what should it be? And we've had several applications, and some of the other applications have been many more cars than this would be. So that would just be my comments. Anybody else want to comment on that?
No, I just think the applicant, the caller made a point about synchronized lights.
Yeah.
And I think I did see that come up at a planning board meeting, so maybe through you, Madam Chair, if David could speak to that. I thought the town had to kind of get involved with that, and that's been kind of stuck for some reason for some amount of time. Maybe you can speak to that.
Pretty sure that was before my time. I can look into it if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just at a recent planning board meeting, I thought it came up.
Do you know for what project?
I don't, but I know a question came up about synchronized lights and how the state was supposed to get, I think it's because some of the lights are state lights and some of the lights are town lights, and
Yeah, that's-
it just seems like one of these bureaucratic things that's stuck, and everybody's kind of pointing fingers the other way. So maybe to help this neighbor out, we can at least get some dialogue going in that area.
Sure, yeah, we can certainly look into that. If there's a portion that's owned by the state, obviously we'll have to reach out.
Yeah, I think it's the Route 128 piece of it with the off-ramps.
Over by the ramps, okay.
Because Endicott Street's a town road, right?
Yeah.
Should be.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? She's gone. Okay.
Oh.
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
The speed bumps, is that also a planning board issue?
It's part of the whole site. I don't think the owner is the owner of the whole site here. Or I'll let Mrs. McCann address that. None of us like speed bumps.
Yeah. Nor does this applicant, by the way. The speed bumps were part of the planning board approval for BJ's way back when. We certainly, and we can do it and through planning staff as we go through site plan approval. If the planning board wants to talk about removing speed bumps, that's, that's fine. We do not have any love or need for speed bumps.
Okay.
And it has been a source of concern for people over the years. As far as access into this site for car carriers, we have now gasoline tankers that easily come into this site for BJ's Gas. BJ's has tractor trailers all the time. coming into and out of the site, as well as the boats. So this is a pretty low traffic generator. We looked at the traffic, probably conservatively 2,000 vehicle trips less a day
Okay.
than the movie theater had for this proposed use.
Okay. All right, so for the person on the phone, it's Marie, right?
Yes.
So I would say that we will ask the applicant to ask that question of the planning board when they go for planning board approval, if we approve this tonight. And also that you should call into the planning board when they have their hearing and voice your concerns at that time.
Okay, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
All right.
Mr. Bradstreet?
Is there anybody else on the phone? Mr. Bradstreet.
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. My only concern is the hazardous waste area to the rear of what's being proposed. I'd hate to see it disturbed. I don't know how it's going to be contained so it isn't disturbed, because that's not my forte. I'm just concerned. It was mentioned before when the prior project was proposed for this area. There's a cemetery down there, and there is the contamination. I just would hate to see a problem created by this project with that contamination and make it an even worse problem. I don't know if that's going to be,
I would
that's one of
assume
those hazardous waste sites. It's, that the government, when they have the chance and the money, will take care of the problem or not. I don't know. I'm just concerned about it.
I understand, and I'm sure the applicant wants to be sure that the site is safe, and I would imagine there's going to be some encapsulation of that area, and there probably will be a licensed site professional involved. So we have to leave it up to the right people to address that.
So I can,
We
I
can
don't
hear
ne-
we can hear your concern, but I think that this is a better use.
I don't
and
necessarily have your assurance, but you're working on it then.
That we're
Or
working
they are
on that?
working on this problem.
Well, I'll let them address that.
Now, you,
They already mentioned that they
Right.
weren't going to disturb
So
it.
they're saying they won't disturb it. Mr. Fields,
Just for what it's worth, the site to the northeast is slated for cleanup, I think, just so everybody's aware. And if any portion of that spills over, we can look at that time.
okay, terrific,
Do
great.
you have a timeline on that, David?
It's the EPA's timeline, so 3 to 5 years, but really that's probably like 10.
Well, I've been reading about Beverly's variant problem, and I just,
Yeah.
and I'm sure the applicant doesn't want
Yeah.
to see it turn into that either. so.
Yeah.
Right. Any other questions from the board? I just had a question of time frame. Can you give us
As soon as possible. Should the board vote tonight, we will be immediately moving forward with site plan and with the engineering and landscaping plans and all of that for submission to the planning board.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go back to the board for deliberations unless you have anything else you want to present. Okay, and we're going to Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think everybody on this board and Attorney McCann know how I hate use variances. And the residential applications for this site were, I think the board agreed, was not appropriate. But this site, I think, this plan I really like. We have a 25,000 square foot building that's falling down. You're going to build a nicer, newer one. You're going to increase reduce the impervious surface and clean up the site. I think this will be a great improvement. I'm for it.
Yeah, I'd have to echo Jeff's sentiment as well. I believe the prior projects that were brought before us were not an appropriate use here. And, you know, a car dealership, even though really the only thing we're granting is outdoor storage and sales, or outdoor storage, not even sales. So it's a commercial use. I think it's a chance to clean up a site and get it active again. So I would vote in favor of this.
Ken?
I too would vote for this. I think it's appropriate for the site.
Green?
I agree. I think this is the perfect use for this specific piece of property. My only question is to David. I noticed on the back page that you wanted to specifically grant this variance to this specific project, so if we can comply with what the planning department requested.
Yeah, it was just to note the title of the sheet and the date and who it was prepared by.
Okay, perfect. And yes, I'm 100% in favor of this.
Do you have that?
I don't.
Here.
Oh, the narrative?
Here. Anything else? No?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, so this site's been vacant since 2016, 6 years. The boat business went in 2014, and I think we've seen that somehow people get in and out, they access that site, they buy boats, they get their boats serviced. So I think the boat sales have been successful, and I think that this would work as a car dealership. I think the use eliminates some of the problems, definitely the eyesore down there, and some of the homeless issues and other things that are going on down there. By getting some use in that area will be good. I'm also familiar with Mr. Rosenberg, and I think he's a very responsible owner, and I think we should be happy to have him come and build something in our town. My only concern is the sign, and I know that nobody else brought it up. I would love to see some reduction in the
Concession.
size of that sign. And I don't know if we're going to get it, but I'd love to hear you tell me that you're going to make it a little bit smaller.
I'm gonna get a little bit.
Because I think you're going to get approval, but that thing is huge. Yes?
We get 20% smaller?
I'm sure you've talked about it.
Can we get 20%?
20%, it's 800 square feet now.
Still pretty
You don't
big.
care what the dimensions are. In terms of,
No,
I mean, it's 800 square feet.
because you're going to have a
currently.
sign on the building that's going to be visible too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, I'll live with that.
So we're talking 160 square foot smaller. That's pretty good. Everybody good with that?
Everybody okay with that?
Go for 25? No, 20,
15?
All right.
Would you
Well,
like a
You're going to come
motion?
back with a sign package, we assume.
Well, this would be
Because
part
all
of this.
cars- all-
They don't need to.
They don't
No,
need
but all
to.
car
Follow
dealerships
through.
do. They always come back with more signs than
Well,
they are allowed.
That is true.
That's true.
If we need a variance for signage, we would come back. Otherwise,
Jeff likes
You'll
to talk
take a-
about Sign-mageddon.
Sign-mageddon, we call it.
You'll take a condition, 20% reduction in the existing sign.
You have to build it over anyway, so it doesn't, yeah.
I've been through the process.
I'm sure you have.
So I'll read that in as a condition.
Okay,
All right.
so let's have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we grant the use variance in accordance with Table 1 of the Danvers Zoning Bylaw to allow a portion of the property to be used for motor vehicle sales outdoor in the Commercial 3 zoning district, which is otherwise prohibited, as shown on plans submitted as the conceptual site plan number 7 Hutchinson Drive, Danvers, Mass., Sheet 2, prepared by Hayes Engineering, Inc., and dated January 18th, 2022, and also with the condition that the existing sign be reduced by 20%.
Pylon sign. Yeah.
Pylon sign, sorry. The hardship is the size and shape of and soil composition of the lot. This condition does not affect other properties or structures in the same zoning district. A literal enforcement of the zoning bylaw would involve substantial hardship to the applicant. Granting this variance will not create a substantial detriment to the public good and will not nullify or derogate from the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
Thank
We're
you
very
very much.
Finally.
Good to see something happening there.
We're very excited about this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Good luck with it.
You left town, and we're happy they came back.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Good luck.
Madam Chair, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.